Hi guys, welcome back to another video. This is sort of like a yearly wrap up, but not quite. In the year of 2023, I read some fabulous books. I'm gonna take you through 23 of them ish. I actually don't think I have 23 books, so we're just gonna talk. Not all of these books are 5 stars, some are 4 stars, some I think are actually 3 stars, but these are books I think you should read. These are books I read and I loved, and we're just gonna go in a random order. I think I'll do series last because there are some series that I have really enjoyed this year and I've started and I'm buzzing to finish, basically. I got my Santa Claus slippers on. This one's missing his nose. I'm not really going to give you my rating. They're either 3, 4 or 5, but you'll get a quick rundown of their ratings in my yearly wrap up. I just want to go a bit more in depth with these particular books. We have a very dirty copy of An Ode to Darkness by Sigrid Sandberg, which is a book about, this is a journalistic memoir, if you will, about a journalist's journey to the Nordic Circle. I believe that's what it's called. And what she does is, during winter, Nordic countries don't experience light. They just don't. Like, sometimes they get like maybe 1 hour or like less than an hour of daylight every day in peak winter, and this is basically this writer's journey with darkness and the psychological effects of it, how it changes the way they feel, how it changes the way they act. It's basically an ode to darkness, which I thought it was so beautifully written. I had tabbed it a little bit and I carried it around with me for a while whilst I was reading it. There was a lot of like interludes of science and I thought it was really cool. So if there's one book you don't think you're gonna love in 2024, make sure you read this one and make sure you love it. Next we have another one which wasn't 5 stars, and this is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is the first Matt Haig book I've ever read, ever picked up, and I just love the concept. It's a very short book and it's like a bunch of short stories put into a tiny book, and basically this book follows Nora, and she dies, but between the moment of actual death and being alive, she's in this mental, she's in like escape of her unconsciousness, and she's in this library, and every time she pulls out a book she becomes something different, or gets to see what her life would be like if she was such and such, or if something different had played out in her favour. But she also gets to see the bad reasons as why the universe led her to not go down certain paths. I loved it. I'm not gonna lie. I know I didn't give it like a 5 star, but I feel like a 5 star is a feeling. I didn't get the feeling, but I do love this book. It was one that had been on my TBR for a while before I did get around to it earlier this year. But sometimes whenever someone mentions Midnight Library, I can instantly pull back parts of it and what happens in the book. And I feel like with a lot of other fictions that I read, or like romances, because they follow such similar structures, I just can't bring back that mental image I had when I was reading this book, and it's really weird to be able to recall a book so incredibly well. This is another book I really recommend to anybody who is into literary fiction, this idea of unconsciousness and the universe and coincidence and chance and opportunity. I think it's a really cool fictionalized structure based on those premises. I sound so smart then. Oh my god. Our first romance on this list is The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. I gave this, I think, a 4.5 stars. Did I say I wasn't going to tell you my star rating? We are following Jane, Miranda and Siobhan, who are 3 women who are all dating the same guy, Joseph Carter. The ending was not what I thought, and it allowed me to see men in romance books be more than just men. Joseph is emotive. He has personal struggles. We see character development, and the biggest plot twist of all, I'm not going to tell you. But at the beginning of the book I was like, oh, Joseph Carter is kind of an asshole. Trust me, he's not. One of my favourite book boyfriends of the year, for sure, because the structure of the story and the way that Beth O'Leary wrote it, it's so good. And I'm so excited to have the Wake Up Call in my bookshelves very, very soon. I have all of Beth O'Leary's backlist and I'm excited to add this to my red bookshelf. My first, I said I wasn't going to do like star ratings, but my first 5 star in this group, we have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This had been on my TBR since like early booktok days, and I never got around to it because I was a bit intimidated by Greek mythology, which you don't have to be because it's really kind of simple. If you saw the vlog that I read this in, you'll know that my dad ruined the story for me. It's fine. He like ruined the mythology for me, not the story itself. I loved it. I loved Patroclus and Achilles and their relationship, and Achilles' relationship with his mother, their upbringing, the writing style. I cried at this book, and I feel like people either have a love or don't love. It's like Marmite. You either love it or you don't, and you're allowed to not like it, but just know that I do love it. Especially like some of the end scenes with the rays. It's so cute. Emily Henry's Happy Place. This, I feel like I was one of the only people that didn't rate this one 5 stars, but I did enjoy it. My first time reading a hardback ever, a hardback book, and from the physicality of books, I love that. It's a story about a bunch of 30-somethings, their relationships, navigating the pressure of romantic relationships within a platonic friend group where there are multiple relationships, and like fears of not like fears, but like the like pressure of being with someone when you might not be ready, and like I want to say miscommunication, and I feel like Wynne and Harriet, who are our MCs, did have miscommunication, but I feel like Emily Henry navigated it in such like a less petty and teenage way. So like teenagers, when they miscommunicate, they're like, oh, but you said this to this and that happened, and no, I didn't say that, you're lying, and I'm not going to talk to you, and I'm not going to express my feelings because I don't care. Whereas it was like they both hadn't given each other the chance to talk about reasons why they did or did not want to be in a relationship, or why not they had broken up. And I think Emily Henry does it really well, and it highlighted her strengths as a writer to be able to not make this a romance book the same that like You and Me on Vacation and Book Lovers is, but it's more like a fictionalized view on adult relationships within platonic friend groups when your friend group is composed of romantic relationships. And this cover is so cute, and it's got little pink sprayed edges because it's Asda's Tickled Pink campaign. Now it's so cute. This is my favourite version of the cover. The one that's all pink is not it. Another Emily Henry book, because why not follow up with Book Lovers. This one I have read it twice. I read it in February in a reading vlog, which was Finding a 5-Star Read. I cried at it. I read it again in September. So I now have 2 different annotations in it. I have a black pen and a blue pen. The blue pen is the old one and the black pen is the new one. And I was in 2 very different places at the end of this year and at the beginning of this year. And this book I read at both times in both different mindsets. And I got different outcomes from it and the same outcome, which is I still love this book. I love the story. There are things I picked up on this time around, having known the ending and rereading it, which I feel like you just get with every time you reread a book. But I adore Nora and Charlie. Charlie is one of my favourite book boyfriends ever. He's witty, he's kind, he's intelligent. And I picture him as the perfect person in my head. Like physically, he is. If you want a really good small town writer's romance, this is it. But again, the same with Happy Place. It kind of navigates this relationship between 2 sisters who both have lost their mother, and they're like dealing with that separately, especially as one is a mother and the other one isn't. Ooh, How to Kill Men and Get Away with It by Katie Brent. I've not heard this one talked about a lot, but it is funny. There are some great characters in it. Mentions really difficult topics which women have to deal with in a society run by men. And by that I mean like men, not all men. Some men think they have a right to a woman, and this book explores reasons why they don't. Our main character, Kitty Collins, who is this glorious lady on the front cover, kills men and gets away with it until the very end. She gets away with it, and as she should. She is stylish, she's arrogant, she's affluent, and it's so almost unrealistic that you could see it actually happening. And I think this fine line between realism and so off the charts exaggerated that it could be real is explored within this book. And I think that there is so much to take away just from supple fiction that we can't expect these exaggerated falses to be truth. And I would not be surprised if this story was true. Not necessarily from like Katie Brent, but like as something that women do, especially in London, I would not be surprised. Do look up trigger warnings before reading this book though, for sure. Ooh, one of my favourite authors released a new book. She released 2 actually, but like this, I read this one. This is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I love Ali Hazelwood. She is one of my favourite authors ever because her books are so feel good to me. As someone who was interested in STEM and then didn't pursue it, I live vicariously through her female MCs. Love Theoretically is following theoretical physicists Elsie and Jack, who's also known as Jonathan. And it's like fake dater's older brother love interest. It feels kind of strange. At the beginning I thought it was just fake dating, but it's fake dating, but she's fake dating his brother. It's all very strange and there's a little bit of miscommunication, but I feel like it was recovered really, really well. I know a lot of people did love this, so if you're looking for some more STEM romances, make sure to check out and continue to check out Ali Hazelwood. This is explicit, not YA. Don't get confused, but check it out. Okay, more recently, because I feel like all of these books have been like really ages ago, we have The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. I read this at Halloween, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I think about being a witch. I didn't read The XX, I haven't read it. I do want to read it. It's like something that's like on the back burner until like next fall, but I do really want to read it. But The Kiss Curse, it was witty. I really enjoyed the couple. I really enjoyed the scenes and the like magical elements and the side characters who are students who are technically kids, but they're like older kids. I really enjoyed those characters as well. I feel like I said in my original output that there were some really good side characters in this. Despite not having read The XX, being introduced to Vivi and Vivi's partner, I feel like you didn't need to read The XX at all, and I feel like I'm the perfect example of that just because I didn't. I don't know, it was just like the perfect read at the perfect time. It was so cozy, it was so just what I needed. It's short, it's sweet, I loved it, delightful. Book 10, we're almost out of standalones, so cool. So our last 2 romances are actually both LGBT. So we have If This Gets Out by Sophie Gonzalez and Kale Dietrich, and this is a gay romance between 2 pop stars in the same boy band. It gave me major Larry Stylinson vibes, which I think is the main reason why I picked it up. But also because like this happens, wasn't it was it Blue or like Backstreet Boys? Like one of them came out as gay after the band broke up, right? Like 2 of them came out as gay or something, and they were like in a relationship for ages. So like it does happen, and we got to see the world of toxic music management as well in this book, and it was so like almost fiery that it hit all the right spot. I was loving the drama. There is a bit of drama in this and I loved it. It is kind of thick for a romance. The story is exactly 400 pages, so it is kind of thick, on the thicker side of romances, but it has a really strong plot line. I really enjoyed it. The characters are so fun. The ending is a little bit over-exaggerated, and not in a way where it could be construed as like almost real, as in a way as in it is a book and it is fiction, and I accept that, and I let the ending not get me down because I was like, it's a fucking book. You know? But a really good one. We have One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, and this book took me over, I think it took me 7 months to read. However, having finished it and reading at least 200 pages of it in a more compressed amount of time, I really enjoyed this book. I love Jane as a character. I think Jane is my favourite. She's so energetic but enigmatic and mysterious, which I think is what enigmatic means. I just think it's so good. It's New York. It's like semester time. So you're looking at, I pictured it like September to Christmas time, but I don't know if it was until summer. But there's like a countdown because the Q train's gonna be like out of service. It's so good, and it's got time travel. And I mean, why would you not want to read that? Casey McQuiston's writing style isn't always my favourite, and I always forget how much I don't enjoy it until I pick up one of her books and I'm like, oh no. But overcoming that barrier, because she has written one of my favourite books ever, which is Red, White and Royal Blue, which I also reread this year, which I also love. I did like this one, and not as much as others, which is fine, but it's very good. And it was my first sapphic romance as well, which is very interesting to read, because although it's really not that different from straight or gay romances, I feel like authors give women more emotional strengths in writing, and it was cool to be able to see two different women's emotional strengths. Again, great side characters. I really liked August's friends, and I could read a book on her friends. I think it's Nico, the guy that does like the spirit stuff. I haven't picked this up in a while. Okay, moving on to series, and I put series in air quotes because like some of them are just sister books. But first we have a non-fiction. We have Get Your Shit Together by Sarah Knight, who is the author of The Life-Changing Magic of Not Giving a Fuck, which is a play on the Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Cleaning Your House. I don't know. Sarah Knight has a very witty, relaxed way on giving life advice. I don't think she's like a solicited advisor. She's just like someone who has gone through some shit and is telling you how to get out of the shit if you're going through the same shit as her. I've read 2 of her books now out of 3. It feels like you're talking to a friend in a very brutal conversation rather than reading a self-help book. And I don't know if I would class it as a self-help book or more like an informative discussion with a mate, but would definitely recommend either of those books or just anything by Sarah Knight. I think she is amazing, and she's one of my favourite non-fiction authors. Next we have The One of Us Is Lying Sisterhood. This year I read Nothing More to Tell, The Cousins and You'll Be the Death of Me, which are the last 3 until One of Us is back. Like the last one in the One of Us Is Lying original series came out this year, which I've not read. Nothing More to Tell follows Bryn from St Ambrose, whose school teacher turns up dead in the wood at the back of the school, and she sort of like investigates it herself. And it wasn't necessarily the storyline that I loved so much, but there was quite a few different plot twists. There was a lot of, I don't want to say pressure, but like there was a lot of like tension as a reader for me whilst reading this book, and I think that's the bit that I remember most. But Karen M. McManus is one of my cozy mystery thriller reads. As someone who isn't a big fan of mystery thrillers, especially adult mystery thrillers, reading YA with simple language, simple plot structures, and not a lot of serious consequences because they are teenagers makes me feel a lot better, makes me feel a lot safer. And all of my books have sprayed edges, so they're gonna look really cute stand next to each other on my bookshelf. I really like these books. Some people aren't, some people think they're just a bit too young for them, which is fine. I love them. And if you are, not necessarily on the younger side, but if you're not a big fan of adult thriller and mystery or crime, definitely check out this whole collection of books. We have Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and this is a short story full of 4 short stories combined into one short book of this time travelling cafe. Again, the actual first time travelling concept book I ever read. The language, because it's translated into English, was very, like, it struck me a bit on the head, I'm not gonna lie. This was the first book I read this year, and sometimes I still think about it. I have the second book, I want to read the second book, I want to continue in the cafe, and I know the third book is out there. I just love the cafe. Not necessarily like characters or the people, but the cafe itself, this idea of a place where everyone returns to, where everyone's like, this is my comfort place, I want to go here. Whether it's because they've heard of the magic in the cafe, or whether it's because they're hoping to meet or see someone, or for someone to come back to them, I think it's really cute. And that is this idea that I love the most about this book. And also there's a cat on the cover. I freaking love cats. And the cover's just, that was my elbow. And the covers are just so cute. I don't know, these little books hit different. And I don't know if I'm going to start the new year with the second book, because that would be kind of cool. But definitely going to start it somehow. So 21 books that I loved in my 21st year. In the year of 2021. Changed the title. I read the first book in They Both Die at the End duology by Adam Silvera. Again, another book I cried at. I knew they died at the end because it was written on the cover. Did I expect them to both die at the end? I actually didn't. I really expected one of them to live on it and break like this curse that this countdown thing has. But this book is so much more than Mateo and Rufus. We get other side characters who live in different ways. We get older people, younger people. We get perspectives of the people on the call line that ring up and be like, oh, by the way, you're gonna die today. Which I wasn't prepared for. I honestly thought it was just going to be the two boys in New York who meet coincidentally and spend the last day together. I didn't think we were going to get so many different perspectives of this last day. The second one is... what's the second one called? They both start at the end? They both are born at the start. I don't know. The second one is a little bit thicker. And I don't really know if it's like the exact same premise or whether it's going to be a bit different or if it, you know. But it is a book I want to get to in 2024. I think finishing series in 2024 will definitely be a goal of mine. Especially because I've had some like started or had some where I have all the books but I've not started reading it or finishing it or anything to do with the series. Would be good. They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I don't think I could put into words without spoiling parts of the plot other than what it says on the front page when I talk about this book. Two series I finished this year though that I loved was The Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I read As Good as Dead, which was the last book I had. I've also read Killjoy, which is the prequel novella that you can or can't read. It doesn't really add anything to the story. It's just more like a fun whim. And this book is the most dramatic and compelling and completely crazy book in the whole series. Like, you think her doing her EPQ project on a cold case is a bit wild. Her in this book is crazy. And the thing about the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series is I only ever remember the first case. I don't really remember what happens in the second one or the third one. I only remember the first one. So when I think back on all the things she did, which I remember, but for the reason I don't remember what she did, I remember. Pip Fitzmaurice is one of my favourite female MCs I encountered this year. Shortly followed by the two we're about to talk about last. But this chick is crazy. She's like, I'm pretty sure all three books happen in like under 3 years. It's really strange because she's like in year 12 doing HBQ and then she's going to uni. And this one gets very serious because we start to see Pip not accepting responsibility for like stuff she's uprooted, but realising the consequences of things she has. And the ending of this book. And if you don't know, this book series is being made into a BBC free drama with, I don't know if it's Emma Myers, but the girl from Wednesday who played Enid is in it. I'm excited. It's going to be so fun. I feel like the cast is really good. I would recommend reading the books first. If you're interested in TV series or you've seen like a trailer or the teasers, shots for it from behind the scenes, read the book first. Because like if you're a fan of Holly Jackson, you would have read the books first, but some people who aren't necessarily or who don't know about the books but know about TV shows should definitely read this book first. I feel like as time goes on, my descriptions of why I like the books are dwindling and I don't really know why. I think it's because I don't really remember much. I kind of like black out my memory. The other series I finished was the Dreamland Billionaire series by Lauren Asher. And I'm slightly annoyed about the spine of this one because it doesn't have a number 3. My other two have 1 and 2 on them. Like, look. Terms and Conditions has a fat 2 on it. And number 3 doesn't. I've got to live with that forever. I don't know if this was my favourite one out of all 3. I really enjoyed number 1 just because we spent a lot of time at the theme park and there was a lot more creative stuff in it. But Callahan was the most complex brother ever. So in this book we follow Callahan and Alina and it's childhood lovers, like second chance romance, childhood lovers to modern day lovers, and Elena is now a single mother. Callahan is not only reinserting himself for like the wrong reasons in that miniature family, but he also has to come acquainted with the fact that Elena, she belongs entirely to someone else. And although that person is a child, it's like she is indebted to this kid forever because she is the sole responsible person for her. And I feel like Lauren Asher did it really well. I also love the like chapter starting illustrations. I actually remember chowing down this book. I'm putting this on my list of 21 books I loved in the year I turned 21. Simply because I read 2 of them this year, and on my birthday last year, so on my 20th birthday last year, I read the fine print in one day. And it was the book I decided to read on my birthday, so it was like, although this isn't my favourite series in the entire world, because like, it has like ties to my last birthday, I'm like, it holds like a special place in my heart. I'm like not sad that it's over, I'm like glad that it ended in a good way. We see all of the brothers and their partners coming together and expanding their own families, working on their jobs, because it was part of their jobs that I was really interested in, especially it being like a Disneyland, big old company kind of vibe. I feel like I shifted the camera when I walked up to it. Oh well, these last 2 series I started in 2023, and so far, because they're both incomplete, so far they are 5-star series for me. We have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Now, I know the turnaround for Iron Flame was incredibly fast. Not saying that she started the book after this one was released and then it was put out in November, but for you to put out 2 books in 1 year that are both quite fat and quite detailed is exceptionally difficult. I am apprehensive about Iron Flame. I have started it. I'm on like page 50. I'm really not that far into it. I kind of put it aside for a second because I was seeing some really bad like reviews about it and people not loving it as much as they love Fourth Wing, and that this idea that BookTok is making publishing like a fast fashion industry. I didn't want to see that stuff and then go into Iron Flame being like, oh, this could be crap. I loved Fourth Wing. As soon as I finished reading it, I wanted to reread it, and I felt like that for a good 2 weeks, and then we had a week gap where like I thought about it but I didn't want to reread it. I was like, Iron Flame comes out literally next week, and then I got Iron Flame in the post and I didn't read it straight away. I sort of lingered on it and I left it on my book cart. It's currently on my book cart in my December TBR. But I'm like, I want to read Iron Flame in a couple of days when I'm all to myself and I'm not really focusing on books for videos. So maybe in that blip between Christmas and New Year's, that would be really cool. I loved all the things I missed the first time I read it. So I don't want to give any spoilers, but Violet, I don't even know what is a spoiler anymore. Oh, that would be okay. Let me think about how to phrase this. There's particular connections between our 2 protagonists. We have Xaden and Violet. So Violet Sorrengail is basically the headmaster, the general's daughter. The general is in like an army general, and she's going into the Riders Quadrant, where Xaden Roydson is a wing leader, and they are connected in a way many didn't think possible, or didn't think were gonna happen. And there are elements of the way that they're connected that I didn't realise the first time I read it. But when I hear other people talk about it, like there's these 2 women on TikTok who I think have a podcast, and they talk a lot. I think they did a Fourth Wing episode. I'm not really sure. I've only seen clips. And they talk about what I'm talking about. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about and you've read the book, go check it out. I have no idea what it's called. I'm not about to find out because I'm lazy and I can't be asked. But if you're on Fourth Wing TikTok, you'll see it. I love this book. I'm not gonna lie, the beginning part I was a bit like, oh, this is like kind of slow. But all fantasies are like that because you're learning a new world, you're learning the map, you're learning the traits and the language that they use and the different kinds of like things and people you can get. So in this book it's dragons, I suppose, but there's other things as well as dragons. But I really like the academic vibes to this book. I did cry at the end. I don't even want to think about it, I'm not gonna lie. But I read this for my October book club with my friend Sky, and she was equally as devastated about the ending, so I'm so glad about that. I really love this book. I do recommend it. Even if you don't want to carry on the series, that's fine. I think the first book, not good enough as a standalone, but I think it is really interesting to see as a standalone. You might be disappointed, but I certainly wasn't, so I don't think you would be. But again, this isn't a book recommendations video. I love this book and I'm telling you about it. Lastly, we have Agatha. I feel like everyone and everyone's fucking nan has read this book series. I read these three and then I saw a TikToker talk about how in the Sarah J Maas universe you read these three. You read Throne of Glass and then you read A Court Frost of Starlight and A Court Silver Flames, which is what I'm doing. This one, my least favourite so far. 4.75. This one, my favourite. I think I actually give it like a 4.95. This one, my favourite. 5 star. This one I loved, and I was like, okay, I can't put these books into words, so I'm gonna do a silent review quickly of these three, and just to show you why I love them so much. I think, let me just show you, okay? Like, this trend of silently reviewing books has been going around on I'm gonna do it. And like, it took me a whole month to read this book. It took me a whole month to read with other books I've read alongside it. The ending, oh my god. I think this might be my most annotated copy. But I really hope you enjoyed my silent review of this book. I don't think I could put into words what this book is about. I say this book, I mean all three of them. And what this book means to me right now. And how much I kind of want to reread them, but I am going to finish the whole Sarah J Maas universe in 2024. That is my goal. My goal is to spend just January on the Throne of Glass series. I want to get that done and dusted, preferably before Valentine's Day. These are the final books I had explicitly demonstrated my love for in 2023. I've really not had that many 5 stars. I've had like maybe 6 maximum. I had a lot of 4 stars though, which I think is just as good. It makes the 5 stars that much more special. Thank you for watching. I know sound right now could be a little bit daunting after that excellent silent review from yours truly. I hope you too had 21 brilliant books in 2023, or 23 brilliant books in 2023, and I'll see you soon with another video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and check out my channel for some other bookish content, because there is quite a bit on there. Some of it better than others, but that's kind of not really it's like once it's online it's not really in my control anymore, so thanks.